I'm going to show you a simple yet effective way to hunt with a gun. Depending on your hunting priorities and standards, your experience will vary. For example, if you only target mature bucks on public land, that's a completely different sport than the general hunter. Most hunters don't hunt that way. And there's nothing wrong with either hunting style. If you hunt more conventionally or you hunt public land, grinded out, run and gun, that's 100% your choice. The first thing I do before I buy my license or even sight my gun in is I search public land areas for small clear cuts. The clear cut needs to be small, and the reason for this is because smaller clear cuts concentrate deer. If you've ever hunted around a large clear cut, maybe 80 to 100 acres or even bigger, you know that deer can shotgun through there. They can bed through there any place, they can leave in any direction or enter the clear cut from any direction. Hunting a smaller clear cut will help eliminate that issue. I like to hunt clear cuts around 2 to 10 acres in size. In the public land near me, there are many clear cuts that fit that criteria. All you need to do is go online, look at a satellite photo, and you can find clear cuts like that in your area as well. You might be thinking, what is a clear cut? Or if you know what a clear cut is, what is a good clear cut? Because not all clear cuts are created equal. You can see here that this is a very small area that has been clear cut, but technically it's been select cut. And then the loggers had left these other small white pines and other things like that. It's got great browse features here because you've got some raspberry bushes, and then back here, this is what we would call red dogwood, I believe, which deer like to eat. Now this right here, this was cut several years ago, and as you can see, things are actually really tall. A couple of years ago, my buddy shot a deer in this exact location, and it was a much better clear cut at the time because the browse was lower where the deer like to feed a little bit more. They'll still feed in here. There's going to be plenty of browse. As you can tell, there's a high stem count. It's very thick, but this is the type of clear cut that I'm thinking of. It's small. It's very high in stem count. Deer are going to congregate to this area. It's going to be great for bedding. It's going to be great for browse. If it's too thick for you to walk in, chances are it's a good bedding area for most deer. I can see a whole bunch of raspberry bushes in there. They like to feed on that kind of stuff. Woody browse, and during the late season, that's going to be a good food source for them. They're going to feel comfortable bedding back in there. It just kind of adds a lot of diversity, and wherever you have diversity, you have food, and oftentimes you have cover for bedding as well. A question that I sometimes see floating around the internet concerning clear cuts is, when do you actually hunt a clear cut after it's been cut? It ultimately depends on where you are. If you're from a more of a southern state and you have a longer growing season, then obviously things are going to have a longer time to grow, and maybe after 2 or 3 years that's going to be an ideal place to hunt. Whereas up in the north woods, when things grow slower and they have a shortened growing season altogether, maybe it takes 4 or 5 years for things to grow up. Here in Wisconsin, where I'm from, I've noticed that anywhere between 2 and 5 years is a good time for deer to start heading into these clear cuts for food and sometimes bedding as well, especially if it gets thick enough for the daytime bedding that they like to use. So this example right here is another example of a clear cut, but really it's select cut. As you can see, some of these taller trees have been left behind, and in a couple of years this is going to be really good. About a year ago this was cut, so in about 2 years, I'm assuming from now, which would make it 3 years total, this is going to be really good. There's a lot of daytime browse in here. There's a lot of little woody shrubs and other types of food that deer are going to use. Right now it doesn't look like much because it's right in the middle of winter. However, when this does grow up, this is going to be a nice area to hunt in. Now, earlier I mentioned that you should only hunt small clear cuts. Let me clarify that a little bit. If you know of a large clear cut that other people have been having success on and you also have, for example, go hunt it. By all means, do that. Don't go to a small one to look for deer if you know they're somewhere else in a large clear cut. The benefit of looking for small clear cuts, as I mentioned, is because it condenses deer. It brings them in from an area where they probably don't feel safe to bed, and maybe there's not a good food source, especially during gun hunting. In most places, gun hunting is in the middle of the season or toward the later end of the season. Should you hunt big clear cuts? Yeah, go ahead. You can do whatever you want. It's just easier to find deer and to pursue them on a smaller clear cut. It makes sense if you think about it because you have less of an area to worry about. It's easier to detect deer coming into the small clear cut as well as leaving the clear cut when they leave for an afternoon food source, if they want to feed somewhere else other than the clear cut that they're bedded in. Once I find that small clear cut, I want to locate one that's in a hard to reach area. Where I'm from and where I hunt, most hard to reach areas simply mean you're crossing some type of body of water. This could be a large river, a small river, a creek, or even a swamp or a marsh. So if you cross some type of body of water, chances are you're going to see more deer and less people. I made an entire video about this that I'll link up here. You can watch this one after this video you're watching right now. The next step for this gun hunting strategy on public land is to find an additional food source. I say additional food source because clear cuts are obviously food sources for deer. They bed in clear cuts and they feed in them. But if you find an additional food source, that's going to give you an idea of where deer are leaving the clear cut you're hunting and where they're coming back from. An additional food source can mean a lot of different things depending on what state you're from and the time of year you're hunting. Really good food source in my area are obviously egg fields. That's very common. So just look for something in your area that you know the deer locally feed on. Maybe do some research. If you find a quality food source near the clear cut you're hunting on, there's a good chance they're going there in the evening and coming back from there in the morning. Knowing where an additional food source is, I think, is really important because you can set up in between the clear cut you're hunting and that food source. For example, in the morning, if you set up in between the food source and the clear cut you're hunting, you can watch the deer come back into that clear cut to bed for the day. At the same time, if you're pursuing deer in the evening, you can set up on the edge of the clear cut when the deer get up from bed and move toward that food source. You can even sit over that food source if it's close enough and you think they're going to get there in daylight. And always make sure you're hunting downwind of where you expect the deer to be. I hunt both private land and public land. I hunt with a gun and I hunt with a bow. I hunt opening day of bow season, gun hunting in the middle of the season, and late bow hunting season as well, all the way to the last day. And here in Wisconsin, that season is about 4 months long. I've been hunting since I was little, maybe just like you. I first learned from my dad and then some close family friends. Later on, I expanded my knowledge by following other successful hunters, the articles they read, maybe shows they put on TV, and other videos and things I've heard them say on podcasts. But the ultimate teacher has not been anybody else. The best teacher for me has been the deer themselves. If you pay attention and you're a serious hunter, a season or two of actively hunting and paying attention will teach you more than any article written by an expert hunter, any conversation you had with somebody else, any video watch online, podcasts you listen to, or even going with other hunters themselves. Deer are the ultimate teachers. They will teach you more than anybody else. And that's what I've learned, and that's where most of my experience comes from. See, on this channel, it's not about experimentation, it's about experience I've had in my life that I get to share with you. If you want to find the best way to find deer on public land, private land, pressured, unpressured, it doesn't matter the time of the year, the state you live in, click this video right here. I promise it's going to work. And don't forget to subscribe over here. We'll see you next time.